Okay, woohoo, this is the last slide I'm going to go over. There are a couple of them before this that talk about how plant viruses are RNA viruses. They don't have DNA. And I don't ask you a lot about plant viruses. Obviously, there are plants that get viruses. The tobacco mosaic virus was one, but sometimes they don't have a negative effect on the plant. Sometimes they do it with colors. Sometimes you see tulips and colors that are swirly or have different, hues to them, and it's because they have a virus in it, and it causes a difference in their color. But I'm not going to ask you about those. If you take botany, you will learn a lot about viruses that infect plants. But for right now, we need to talk about viroids, and prions. Viroids are your smallest of all the viruses, so you do need to know that. However, they only infect plants and they only have RNA as their genetic material. What they do is they infect the plant and they disrupt its growth. So, the viroid is going to be a very tiny RNA virus that is plant directed only. Now, prions, and we've talked a little bit about them when we did our diseases. Prions are slow acting. We know that it took about a year. When we talked about Crutchfield Jacobs, it takes about a year to develop all the symptoms and die. So, proteins um, that fall into the prion, they're misfolded. They're virtually indestructible infectious proteins that causes brain diseases in mammals. Now, what prions do is they direct normal proteins, they convert them into this misfolded protein, which is the prion, and they start boring holes into the brain, and your brain ends up looking like a sponge. With some of these diseases, it can take 6 months, it could take a year. They're not as quick as some of the other viruses, but they're not as slow as some of the other viruses either. So in sheep, remember, it's called scabies. In cows, it's called mad cow, and Crutchfield Jacobs. In humans, those are all prions. We know that it's in the feed. The prion directs the proteins in the brain to misfold and become infectious proteinaceous particles that bores holes. That's where the spongy form comes in. And then, of course, encephalopathy means the brain and the casing of the brain.